Thank you for joining us. Our program today will focus largely on a controversial subject that's been in the news recently. California Governor Jerry Brown passed a bill that would allow physicians to prescribe life-ending drugs to Californians who are diagnosed as having less than 6 months to live. The co-author of this right to die legislation is State Senator Lois Wolk, who will join us on the show from on location in Napa County, California, where she was just interviewed by Cheryl Martin. We'll learn more about this subject following these messages.
With us now is State Senator Lois Wolk.
So this has become something very different. So the notion of choice at the end of life is a natural extension of those changes.
As people are living longer now, rather than the traditional death and burial, what are your thoughts on cryonics and people preserving their bodies as an alternative?
I think the one thing I believe, the core principle, is that at the end of your life, there's nobody who should make decisions for you other than you. I mean, it's hard to imagine a more serious and fundamental choice than what happens to you at the end of your life. And I think that that's where the decisions on how you approach the end of life should be. For some people, that means viewing death as a struggle, using every possible way to stay alive and to prolong their lives. And I'm not one to judge about that. I do believe that in some cases, when there is extraordinary pain, when the end is clear, when you have, as Brittany Menard, this lovely 27-year-old woman that was diagnosed with a glioblastoma, a terrible brain tumor that everyone knows at the end is not going to be pretty, and medication is almost will not be able to alleviate your pain, that she and others like her should have the choice of a peaceful death, and they should be able to do it in their home and with their family or without their family, whatever they choose. But there's no more personal and fundamental choice that is made than how you exit this world. And I think that really underlies this legislation.
Do you foresee in the future, generations from now, that they could actually be revived and come back? You think that's going to be possible?
I think that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. I mean, I have, and I think those people who want to do that should be able to do that. But that's not for the ordinary person and the ordinary citizen, and the ordinary family that is faced with today the prospect of a very difficult end, and who wants to exercise the choice to have it be a peaceful end. We are truly, here in the United States and in California is no different. We are a death-defying culture. We don't want to die. I don't know anybody that does. If somebody wants to, and they're perfectly healthy, we think that is a mental illness. But if someone is facing a terminal end, the last 6 months of life, and they've tried everything that they want to do to retain whatever dignity and humanity they have and want till the very end, they should be able to do that. And we should be able to help them either with hospice or palliative care. But if they choose to have a peaceful end and they want not to inflict a horrendous end on their families, and they want to do this peacefully, they should have that option. And that's what this is. That's why we called it the End of Life Option Act.
Right. Do people move to California to die?
I don't think so. The experience in Oregon, which was one of the issues that was raised 17 years ago, that people would flock to Oregon in order to die, that never happened. I mean, in order to be able to, at the end of your life, when you're not feeling well anyway, to be uprooted, to have to uproot yourself, your family, away from your family, away from your friends, away from your children, away from whatever solace you gain from your house and your place you live and all that is familiar, to have to uproot yourself to another state. How do you afford to do that? How do you have the emotional and physical strength to do that? I assume some people will try and do that, but you have to establish residency. It takes a while to do that. It's not something you do overnight. I don't think that that will be the case. It didn't happen in any other state. There may be a couple people who do that because they can afford to do that, or have the wherewithal to do that, or feel so strongly about what's about to happen to them they want to do that. But that's so rare. I'm not concerned about that.
What is your opinion on research in aging? Our program is sponsored by Life Extension Foundation. What is your thoughts with that research for extending people's lives into the future?
Well, as I said, I think I should answer that question by saying that I'm not familiar with the work of Life Extension Foundation. But I should tell you that as a member of the Health Committee for many years, and as someone who has looked and legislated in the area of health, both for the elderly and children, that I believe strongly in research. I think that that's something we need more of, not less, and often doesn't get funded as well as it should, both at the federal level and at the state level. And now with there are so many areas of research and need that extent, that those kinds of issues are fine. I think for me personally, I'm really focused on life and living life as fully as one can. And I think as a death-defying culture, nobody wants to die. But the fact is that we have a lot of issues of children and adults and people who really need to live their life fully. And that's what I support.
Thank you so much for having us here in your office.
My pleasure.
I'm Cheryl Martin in Napa Valley.